A-levels are genuinely so hard. Today I wanted to put together a video on how I revised for A-level chemistry, biology and maths because I've had so many DMs and questions asking how I revised. This year I sat my A-levels and I got A star in chemistry, A star in biology and an A in maths. So in today's video I want to try to give you as many tips and tricks and advice as I can and just basically tell you exactly how I revised so you can hopefully take something away from today's video. I did ramble a lot, so I'm so sorry if this video is quite long-winded and there's a lot of information, but I've put everything that I talked about in the description below. And I'm gonna get straight ahead and go into chemistry. I have sort of written a few notes on what I want to talk about, but I basically am just gonna try and record exactly what I did. But just start off with, before you get to the actual A levels, I think in sixth form it's so crucial that you are like being consistent throughout the 2 years. Obviously I spoke about this in my sixth form tips video, to have fun. Like, it's not just studying. Like, I loved sixth form, probably one of the best 2 years like ever. I miss it so much, but you do have to be consistent, like revise for those topic tests and actually listen in lessons as much as you can. So for chemistry, the way I would take notes is I actually on Notion, which I don't know if I'd recommend or not, because every time it came to do a drawing or I was drawing something out, I would draw it on my iPad on Notability and then just copy that and paste it into my Notion. I did find it useful because on Notion it's so easy to like categorize each topic. So I'd have like a physical, organic and inorganic folder, and then I would have like each sort of topic within the folders, and then I'd have notes on each one. So my organization for my actual notes were really clear, which was really helpful when it came to revising for my A levels. So however you take notes, I'd recommend having it in an organized workspace so that you can easily access it when it comes to revision. So when it comes to topic tests, always use a spec. I mean, I'm the biggest advocate for the specification. If you haven't heard of the specification, it's literally just like a huge document that your exam board will release. So for me, I did chemistry, AQA. I'm pretty sure this is the start. I did AQA, chemistry and biology, and EdXL maths. In chemistry, AQA, the exam board will release a huge document filled with the specification, which basically just includes everything they could possibly ask you about and everything you need to know. So I would always use a spec, because I've said this before, but sometimes teachers will miss out parts of the specification, or you might have missed a lesson and you missed out on some information. So using the specification just ensures that you know everything you need to, and you don't get to an exam being like, what is this? I've never seen this in my life. So use the specification, and then I would combine the specification, my class notes, and then also some external source. So this isn't sponsored, by the way. Any sort of websites I mention, it's just like what I use. So I actually really like Save My Exams, which is like a website with like explanations. I think you can access like 5 pages free a day. I think I did end up buying a membership just for my A levels, but I quite like Save My Exams because they set it out super clearly. And sometimes there was a bit too much information, like you had to decipher what you actually needed to know, but it was good to like be explained the entire topic, and then I could summarize it into my own notes. I also loved this YouTube channel called Allery Chemistry. Allery Chemistry actually saved me. Like, me and my classmates always joke about Allery, like what a guy Allery is. He made the best AQA chemistry videos, explains stuff so well, and before you get to like actually memorizing things for chemistry, and the same for biology to be honest, but you have to be so understanding of what you're actually memorizing. So before you even start making flashcards, before you start writing notes, whatever you do, understand the content. And the way I understood it was, again, I'd use a spec, I'd use notes, whether it's a CGP book or website, I'd watch YouTube videos, and I'd make sure I actually understand what's going on. Even if I'm not going to remember it in 3 days time, first of all, understand all the content, because I get it in class. Sometimes you're not fully aware of what's going on, you're a bit tired that day, you know, so make sure you understand what you're going to be revising. And then I did flashcards, so I used Anki. I think I talk about Anki all the time. My camera battery is flashing. Let me go change the battery one sec. Okay, yeah, so I used Anki, which is basically just like a flashcard app similar to Quizlet. It's completely free on your desktop. I think you have to pay for it for your phone, which I did end up doing, because then I could just do the Anki flashcards like on the bus on the way to school, and like if I was on the train, it was really easy to access. That's one reason why I did prefer digital flashcards to paper flashcards, just because of the easy accessibility of digital notes. And I would literally use the spec and use these statements on the specification, turn it into a question, break it up if I needed to, if there was a lot of content, and make Anki flashcards and just practice them. If I was at the gym on the treadmill, I'd be on Anki looking at my Anki flashcards. Like, it's called spaced repetition when you keep consistently looking at the same piece of content over time, and then over time it goes into your head. And I'm saying do this like as much as you can for your topic tests in year 12 and year 13. Doing this from an early start means that when you get to your actual A levels, like, you actually understand all the content, and when you get to A levels, you are rememorizing. You're not having to fully understand everything that's going on, and it just saves so much time and makes your actual A level revision so much easier. But yeah, personally, I found making my Anki flashcards myself the best, because then it's forcing me to fully understand the content, so I can put it into my own words on a flashcard, if that makes sense. Whereas sometimes if you buy flashcards online, like, you're reading something and you're like memorizing it, but you don't actually understand what it means, which is not helpful in A-levels. Like A-levels, you need to be in, out, like you need to have a complete understanding of your specification, because a lot of the questions when it comes to papers and actually answering questions is an application style, so you have to take what you know and apply it to a very unfamiliar scenario. So actually understanding the content is vital. You can buy Anki flashcards, or you can buy flashcards if you need to, but I think making your own revision source is a good way to force yourself to understand something. But yeah, my main sort of revision was flashcards, which I found good for memorizing but not for understanding content. For organic, I used to draw out the organic synthesis pathway all the time. I used to do it with friends as well. Like we'd ask each other the organic synthesis pathways, like how do you get from an alkane to an alkene. I just used to draw out my organic synthesis pathways all the time. We'd go to the library and there'd be a big whiteboard, just draw it out. Trust me, just draw it out as many times as you can. And I'd also actually use ChatGPT, so I'd paste in the spec so it knew specific organic synthesis pathways I needed to know, because for A-level you need to know, like, there are so many, but for A-level I think there are like 30 something you need to know. So I would tell ChatGPT what those were and then ask it to ask me questions about those ones. So if you have a friend to work with, that's also another way you can do it. And for inorganic, so I'm reading my notes, a lot of it was like colours, like memorising colours, etc. So I would do some of those on paper actually, and I'd use like colourful pens or colourful pencils. Basically when I just got bored of doing flashcards, I'd like switch up the revision technique to make things more interesting and so that I could carry on revising for longer without being completely bored and like actually focusing on what I'm doing. So for inorganic, a lot of the time I would use colours and just like draw a little mind map, you know. Mind maps are definitely not my favourite way of revising, but it's just like switching things up so you don't get bored. But as I said, my main sort of bulk revision through year 12 and year 13 was flashcards and understanding the content before you make them. And then when it came to A-levels, I wrote like a 5-step sort of thing that I did when it came to each topic. So I had each topic on Notion. I made a whole separate chemistry A-level folder and I'd write down each topic, and for each topic, so say I wanted to start, I'd rank them from red, amber, green, and I started on all my red topics, and then I left like the green topics, the topics I was more confident ones, towards the end of like my A-level revision. So start on the red ones, I'd read the spec, what do I need to know for this topic, and then I would do the Anki cards that I've already made. If you haven't made your Anki cards, you can use online ones or you can use an online revision source. So read through your Anki cards, read any notes that you've made previously, like make use of the revision sources that you made in year 12 if you did. Like I think a lot of people, and I've also been guilty of this, make revision sources and then like put them in a folder and forget about them. Like when it comes to A-levels, get all your revision notes that you've made before and use them, save some time. So read through your notes, do your flashcards, and then I would use ChatGPT. I tell you, ChatGPT genuinely, like I would say I did like at least 30% of my revision using ChatGPT. So after I did that, the prompt I would say to ChatGPT was, I'm currently revising blank topic of AQA A-level blank, so like chemistry or biology. Please can you test me using detailed spec relevant questions to assess how much I can recall and to check for full understanding, and provide me with detailed feedback based off AQA mark schemes. So that is what I'd tell ChatGPT, and I'd give it the topic, I'll put that prompt in the description, and it would ask me like 10 to 15 questions. I would type my answers back and it would give me detailed feedback. So it was like doing active recall with an actual human, but it was online. And I found this so helpful because when I've done active recall before, and when I gave this advice in my GCSE video, I would like have to find a friend and, you know, talk to them about and blurt with them about a certain topic. But with the use of ChatGPT, you can do that by yourself. And I still did do blurting with friends. So say we'd done all of paper 1 revision and we're getting nearer the exams, I'd be like, Angie, come here, we need to do paper 1 revision. We'd sit in the library and blurt together. 100% still do that, but you can do active recall more often by yourself using AI like ChatGPT. So that is how I use ChatGPT a lot of the time. Just be aware that ChatGPT can be wrong. So this is why I recommend using ChatGPT for like memorization, but you know the content already. So if ChatGPT gets it wrong, you're like, chat, you've got it wrong. But like 95% of the time it will be right, and it will be good to test your knowledge. And then once you're like, okay, I've understood the content, I've like memorized a lot of it, that's when I start doing past paper questions. You can do it topic by topic to start with before you do a full paper. My advice would be to save your papers, because like for me, I had like 6 papers, maybe 6 full papers, 2017, 18, 19, 20, maybe 8. But yeah, you have a limited number of like actual past paper questions and like papers, so save those for like nearer the time and just do topic questions when you're starting to revise and starting to get into it. And for topic tests, you can find these topic questions on PMT. I'm sure that's what like everyone does. I actually didn't love, by the way, I actually didn't love the PMT notes for A levels. I think that sometimes they were just so much more detailed than they needed to be, but they can be useful, you know, here and there. One of my friends used PMT notes and she got like 3 stars, so different for everyone. Just personally, I found it quite overwhelming, but they can be good and sometimes they miss out information. So if you do use like any revision notes, just make sure you're also using spec, because that is directly from AQA what they want from you. I feel like I'm waffling so much, but that is basically chemistry. I'm trying to do this as quick as possible, get the information out as quick as possible. But yeah, consistency in doing past paper questions is huge, because in chemistry you'll realize like they ask the same question quite a lot. Like in my exam, I think there were like a few small mark questions where I was like, I've done this exact question before on a past paper, so I literally knew exactly what to write and what would get me a mark on the mark scheme, which was pretty handy. And if you do enough past paper questions, you will see a pattern in how they ask the question, and when you go for the mark scheme, you'll be like, okay, this is how they want me to answer the question. So although you may have all the knowledge, it's so important to do past paper questions so you can see how to apply your knowledge. I'm sure this is like basic information that everyone's been told, but just to reiterate the importance of practice papers and also getting your timings right, because timings in chemistry can sometimes be like tough. Going back and checking once you finish, even if you aren't tight for timings, go back and check. And I'm trying to think if I used anything else. I think I did also use the CGP books a bit. They were just quite like interesting and colourful when I was bored of my plain Anki cards. Love Anki, but they are just like black and white, you know. But I did use Anki like most mornings during my A-level revision. Like you can just wake up and do them before you leave for school, you know. Like it's so easy to just do 20 minutes and get like 150 flashcards done like every morning, and then think how much more you will have seen and how much content you will know by the time it comes to your exams. Oh yeah, when you do ChatGPT and you may get like a certain question wrong, focus on that area. So before you then go on to past papers, do like re-revise that topic that you got wrong, because maybe when you were revising earlier you didn't fully go into that, or you didn't realize that you weren't unsure on that topic. So fully go into your weaker areas first, which I know can be awful, but they're the points you need to focus on, right? I'm stressed about how long this video is going to be, so we're moving on to biology. I just did the same sort of note-taking process for biology. One of my friends used his iPad, and all the sheets that our teacher gave us, he just like scanned them onto, I think, Notability or Good Notes, and then he like wrote over them, and that was a good way, because then for biology you can also do drawings. I just did a mix. Like by the end of it, I was just using Anki flashcards. I was just putting all the content onto Anki, no matter how I took the notes in class, because we had 2 teachers teach us for A levels, and one of them would do sheets, and then one of them would just have like a PowerPoint, and you could make your own notes however you wanted to. So the one with sheets, I kept all the sheets, and then when it came to making the flashcards, I'd make sure I have those sheets with the information. The one who did a PowerPoint, I think I also did Notion notes and just like added in images when I needed to. The way you note take, I would just say, as long as it allows you to listen in class, as long as it allows you to get all the information down that you need and for you to fully understand what's going on, then you know, you note take how you want to note take. And then as I said, when it comes to revising for these topic tests, just use your notes, and I would say and another revision source like a website or a CGP book and the specification, and combine them all into flashcards or into notes, whatever you want to do. But that is like my foolproof method on how I feel like I knew every bit of content that I needed to know for all of biology and chemistry, because there is nothing that they can ask you outside of the spec. And I had 2 revision sources, you know. Like yeah, that would be my foolproof plan if anyone's taking anything away from this video, is to use those 3 things when it comes to making revision resources. I've also put for biology starting early. I just think have fun in sixth form. I had the best time ever, but do like use some of your frees to do work for biology and chemistry, because it is a lot of content. Like I remember going from GCSEs to A levels, having more frees, only having 3 subjects. I was like, oh, it's not that hard. But like there's just a lot of content within each subject, you know. Oh yeah, with biology, okay, so it's a lot more memorization. Like there's so much you need to memorize for biology. If you've already started biology, I'm guessing you probably know this, but also it's not just memorization. I think a lot of people jump to like, oh, chemistry is more understanding, biology is more memorization, but actually like for AQA anyway, only 30 to 35% of the marks in your A levels is AO1, which is like recalling knowledge. Like most of it is application and applying your knowledge to an unfamiliar scenario. So I would just really heavily put emphasis on understanding the content, which I must have said like 6 times in this video. Everyone's getting bored of my voice, but some small things in biology, it's just like, okay, I just need to know this. But the majority of the content, I'd say use a revision source and understand like why is that, like why are they saying that, you know. I'm trying to think for examples. Like the ELISA test is in topic 8, so I think it's like for me it was year 13 content. A lot of people just memorize the steps of the ELISA test, whereas like I was watching videos on the ELISA test and like, you know, fully understanding like, oh, like why does it do this, you know, and then like the steps sort of like processed in my head. And then once I fully understand it, I'd also look at mark schemes from those questions and be like, this is what they want me to say. But also when it came to the actual exam, I'd also include my own knowledge, because sometimes like a past mark scheme for like a 2018 paper will be completely different to like a 2022 paper. Like biology mark schemes are just genuinely awful. Like if you've started biology A level, or if you haven't, wish you the best of luck. Biology mark schemes are stinky. Like love chemistry mark schemes, biology mark schemes just like they're so specific and you never know what they fully want. Like some years this is the exact 5 points they want, the next year only 2 of those points will score you like marks. So although a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm just gonna learn the mark scheme, great, really good start when you're doing practice papers, but also have your own knowledge to put in there, especially for the longer 5-6 mark questions. Having your own knowledge is key to make sure that you're not missing marks. When it comes to A levels, as I said, after being consistent throughout the year, ask your teachers if you're stuck with anything, by the way. Like with A levels, it's just so key, like don't fall behind, especially during year 13. Like it's so easy, because for me I had UCAT in summer, then I had to do my personal statement, submit my UCAS, then I was like bam, okay, interviews for 2 months during my mocks, and like it's so easy to fall behind on your actual A level content, but it's so important that you do try somewhat keep up. This is why I never listen to people that are like, you have to make a biology flashcard the moment you finish your lesson, because I'm like, girl, I don't have time for that. Like I have my interviews next week, like I've got my priorities. And I think one thing you really learn during sixth form is prioritizing your tasks, because you're juggling so much. And sometimes I'd find like my teacher would teach me a topic, like I know the first part of topic 8, and it would take like 4 weeks in class, and then I could fully do all my whole revision resource and understand it completely in like 3 hours, like after that 4-week block. So you do not have to make a flashcard after each lesson. I'm telling you, people that say that, like unless you have all the time in the world, go for it. But if you are somewhat busy and juggling other things, which I feel like a lot of people are, you don't need to stress about doing that. Well, like genuinely, I don't think you need to. Like there's not even any scenarios. You can cover so much content if you are actually like strategic in your revision sessions and you are focused in your revision sessions. So yeah, ask your teachers throughout the year, understand the content, put as much effort as you can into topic tests, into memorizing content for your topic tests, so that it becomes easier when it comes to A levels. It's just like rememorizing type thing. And for biology A levels, I use the same structure as chemistry. So I would read my spec, what do I need to know for this topic? I would do my Anki cards, I would read any notes I made, I would use ChatGPT, I'd do active recall, I'd get my mum to ask me questions, I would blurt with friends, and I'd do practice papers and practice questions, and I would read the mark schemes. Like I genuinely think that's such a foolproof plan for anyone who's doing like chemistry or biology, because there you were just covering every sort of revision teak. Like you've got your flashcards with the spaced repetition that you were doing consistently throughout the 2 years, you've got your blurting with friends, you've got your mind maps, your colours, Anki, which is like asking yourself questions, active recall, as I said, even more, and you have your practice questions, so you're understanding how you're going to be writing in the exam and what the examiners want from you. That would be my sort of 5-step advice for anyone who wants biology or chemistry advice. I'm going to move on to maths soon because I'm waffling a lot, but genuinely I think the main thing that I can give anyone for doing these subjects is to understand your content. Please do not just memorize, because you can get away with that in GCSEs. Like the GCSE questions they ask you don't go into as much like understanding in detail as A levels do. So for GCSEs you can just memorize the content, and for A levels it's so like, to get an A star, it's not, you can't just know the spec. You actually have to like understand why, if that makes sense. And if you were struggling, use Allery Chemistry. I use Miss Estrick a lot of the time on biology on YouTube. Use websites, use CGP books, use your teachers, use your friends, understand the content, and it will make memorizing easier as well. And it will make doing the past papers easier because you'll know what to write. It will just make everything flow better. So that was my foolproof plan for revising biology and chemistry, which I both got A stars in. And if you have any questions on that, please let me know in the comments below, because I don't want to keep waffling and repeating myself when you guys are like, okay, I get it. Moving on to maths before some general advice. So maths was the one I got an A in, but I was 2 marks off an A star. I loved maths. Like maths was my favorite subject in year 12. And I was like, sure, maths would be the only one that I was like definitely gonna get an A star in, like all of year 12. Genuinely loved math. And then year 13 came around and the content got so much more difficult. Like, I don't know, I would still focus a lot in lessons. I'd say if you can focus in lessons, do it, because like how many hours of maths did I get a week? 4 or 5? I think 5 hours of maths a week in year 13. So that's 5 hours every week for like X amount of weeks in year 13 where you can be doing practice questions. And I really did not enjoy doing practice questions at home. Like if you watch any of my study vlogs from year 13, when I went to school, all I would do was maths, because I find it so hard to do maths in my bedroom. I get so easily distracted because I'm so sick of this. I'd get stuck on a question, I'd be like, I give up. I actually give up. Whereas at school, like if I got to a question and I was like, I cannot do this, like I've thought about this for a good 15 minutes, I'm not going anywhere, you can go ask a friend. Like I was in a form with further maths people, don't know how I got there, but I was. So a lot of the time I'd go in, and my form tutor was actually a maths teacher, which was quite helpful, but a lot of the time I would go in with maths questions from when I'd been practicing and be like, please explain. So for maths, it really is just practicing, doing harder questions. A lot of people use Mad Maths to find difficult questions. I didn't love it because I found Mad Maths sometimes too hard, and then I'd start the maths questions and I'd be like, I literally can't do this, and I'd give up. So yes, you want to do hard maths questions because then when it comes to the exam it will seem easier, but don't delve straight into super hard maths like 5-star questions, because for me it just demotivated me so much. I really liked Bison Maths and Zishan Maths, were my two fave math YouTubers that I would go to for explanations. I'd honestly just go through like the topics and be like, okay, I really need to work on this one, like do a few questions on it, go to the textbook, redo the like end of topic questions. I'd go to math support sessions with my friend Tilly on a Tuesday, and some of my teachers would go over old topics from year 12 that you may have forgotten about. I think I downloaded all of Bison Maths. Like if you go onto Bison Maths YouTube channel, he has like a whole website with like a bunch of like papers and questions and like literally everything. Some of my friends loved Zishan though. I also did use Zishan a lot. I'll link both of these channels down below. I'll link like every resource I've spoken about. Yeah, a lot of it for me was just watching YouTube videos, watching how other people answered questions. I learned a lot from like watching other people and other people helping me, and then just doing practice. Like genuinely just practice your questions, man. It's like, and timings when it comes to doing maths papers, doing it under time condition, like look, if like no one's gonna take this advice, I hated doing time to pass papers. Like the only way I'd get myself to do time to pass papers was either at school in class, or like when it came near the exams and I was like, I actually need to do this because they just suck. But like it's so important. It's so important learning that like, okay, I don't know this question, move on. You know, like don't spend an hour on this one question. And that is how I revised maths. Again, if you don't understand something in class when your teacher's explaining it, because at maths A level, they move like 4 times as quick as GCSE. I'm telling you, when I did my first like maths lessons, I was like, what is going on? Like I actually can't do this. But just tell your teacher, like even if it's when everyone else is doing work, so say they're explaining the lesson, like explaining the topic for the first half, and then you have practice questions for the second half. During the second half, when everyone's like doing their own work, just put your hand up and ask your teacher, like, can you explain this to me a bit? Can you explain this part to me from earlier because I didn't fully understand? And doing that each lesson will make it so much easier when it comes to the A levels and you actually understand all the content. It's just revisiting, you know, revisiting and relearning how to do certain math questions. So that would be my advice for maths. I think the reason why I just didn't do as well in maths, I did do well, sorry, I almost got an A star, but the reason why I didn't get an A star was probably just like, I just got demotivated by the end of it. I think like, I found it really hard if I was constantly getting maths questions wrong to keep going. And I did persevere so much. I actually don't know, I just think the maths grade boundaries were really high. I did try my best. The grade boundaries just went up again. I think it was like 86% for an A star. But yeah, the main advice I can give you with my A is to do practice questions and to ask for friends that are really good at maths, the further math students, when you need it. Finally, I want to give you guys some final just general A-level tips. I want to apologize again. I feel like this video is so long. I'm so bad at being concise when I'm giving advice. I just want to like tell you everything. Some final general advice for your A-levels and just sixth form in general when it comes to revision. First one is to start early and just be consistent throughout the 2 years, because to be honest, you definitely can like mess around a lot in year 12 and then still do really well in year 13. It just means like when it comes to A-levels, you have to put in a lot more work. Personally, I felt like I always did a lot throughout A-levels, but I never did more than 6 hours a day. Like for people asking how many hours did you do a day, actually tell a lie. My average was 6 hours a day. Sometimes I'd do less and sometimes I'd do more, but on average, it averaged to about 6 hours. And I think if you mess around a lot in year 12, like you can still get really good grades, but you're going to be doing just like more work basically. I felt like during A-levels, I was able to keep a really good like balance, like a lot more than I was for GCSEs. I think it's just through experience of like doing exams, but I still did try post on my social medias. I was doing day in the lives on TikToks. I was still doing a lot of sport. I was still like spending time with my family, seeing friends. So I think my advice, like if you want to have a somewhat okay A-level season, because it is really intense, is to just be consistent from the start. Make your revision resources early on, pay attention in class, ask questions when you need it, and revise for your topic tests basically. As I said, I did do about 6 hours a day. If you can find a library to go to, that basically saved me. If you are good at working in your room, that is just amazing, because you can just like, I was so jealous of people that worked really well in their room, because I find it so hard. Like I would get so distracted in my bedroom. I'd start like tweezing my eyebrows or, you know, like wandering downstairs. But in a library, like especially if you have to drive there, I would be like, okay, I've driven half an hour to this library. I'm not gonna sit here and do nothing. So I would get to the library at 9 and finish like late at night. And I wouldn't do like the entire day full of just work. Like I'd do a 2-hour past paper break, you know, have some lunch, the 2-hour past paper break, have some lunch. When it came close to A-level season, my like day-to-day revision plan would be to do 2 past papers every day and review them every day. Like that was the minimum, and that would usually take about 5.5 hours, because a past paper was 2 hours and then marking them maybe just under an hour. So that would maybe be 6 hours. And then if I was having a productive day, I would try to do a bit more in the middle. So I'd be like, okay, what did I get wrong in this past paper? Can I focus on this topic? Can I go over CGP? Can I make some more notes? Can I ask ChatGPT to ask me some questions on this? Can I blurt over this topic with a friend? That was like my sort of day-to-day during A-levels and how I revise mainly. Some days if I was like, okay, I need to do a lot more content today, I would do past papers, like maybe 1 past paper, and then focus on more content the second half of the day. But I did hugely also prioritize just having a balance, because I think like A-levels is such a long run. Like I started revising a lot later than a lot of my friends. My friends just started revising straight after mocks in January. But like I just done mocks and interviews in January. Like I genuinely needed a break. I don't know when I started revising properly, maybe around March, and I would just do like an extra hour, half an hour a day on my weaker topics from like the start of year 13 and going back to revisit topics from the start of year 12 that I may have forgotten and that I didn't have time to look over summer because I was doing my UCAT, you know. Like just starting small, maybe half an hour a day on the bus of going over old topics was when I started in like March, I think. And then I ramped it up, and by the time it came to April, I was doing quite a bit, my 6 hours a day. For me personally, people do it differently. I did revise content first before I started doing past papers. Like some people start revising content and past papers at the same time, but for me, I would do like what I was saying, like the spec, my Anki, my notes, ChatGPT. When I say past paper questions, I mean like questions you find online of like a question bank. And I saved a lot of the papers to do it in timed conditions for closer to the time. So I'd sort of like learn a lot of my content beforehand, and then like closer to the time when it got to study leave and around then is when I'd start doing the 2 past papers a day, which I had from this huge bank of past papers because I hadn't used them previously. And I timetabled and made a revision timetable so that I would complete all the previous past papers before my exam. So that's how I did it. Like I started with content just because for me I was like, I don't want to be wasting past papers. I don't even know the content yet, you know. I mean, people do it differently. Some people think that doing past papers, like you find the gaps in your knowledge and you can revise there, but I just wanted to revise everything. And I still did do past paper questions just from like a bank rather than like an actual paper. So that's how I revised for chemistry and biology. Same for maths, to be honest. I did topic questions and then saved a lot of the papers for close to the time. I did actually do a lot of maths past papers, like not the topic questions, but I did do a lot of maths like papers because I had them on the PMT website, which is where I got like loads of my past papers from. So that was very useful, to be honest, because maths, like you just want to do as much as possible, right? So like I needed as many questions as I could. But yeah, I think that's all the advice I wrote down. Oh, sticky notes. I put sticky notes all around my room for chemistry. My boyfriend thought I was crazy. I had like mnemonics for chemistry all around my room. All the I had the organic synthesis pathway plastered on my mirror. Like I used to film content and TikToks and my organic synthesis pathway in the background. I'd be like, sorry guys, just in the back of my fashion TikTok. But then when I get ready every morning, like it's like here, so I'd be doing like my concealer, like reading my organic synthesis pathway, just like little things like daily. Yeah, another thing is I also used to say to ChatGPT, like everything I've got wrong in topic 8 of biology, test me on again. And it's so clever, man. Like it literally remembers the questions that you got wrong and will like store them in its memory, and then you can ask for it again. So you can just go over your weaker areas. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I have covered everything, but just somehow like in a lengthy, long way in this video, and I'm really sorry that it turned out to be this long. I do think a revision timetable is also a really good idea. I made one of these on Notion, and I just plan out the topics I would do each day. I would switch it up, so I did 3 A-levels. If you did 4, you could probably do like one day, 2 the next day. But I would just switch them up, so like maths, chemistry, biology, chemistry, maths, biology, and I'd like sort of rotate that for like 3 days consistently. Hence why I prefer it to GCSEs, because it was just easier to revise in my opinion. Log your mistakes, track your weak areas, focus on your weak areas. I know it's awful to do, but focus on your weak areas. And yeah, you're all gonna be fine, guys. Like genuinely, A-levels are so stressful, and I'm not even trying to like scare anyone. It's just the truth. Like A-levels are stressful. They determine where you're going to be going for university for the potential next 6 years of your life. Most for people 3 years, but they are stressful. But if you prepare early from year 12 and if you put in the work, like I genuinely didn't do a stupid amount of work in A-levels. Like when it came to the actual A-level season, as I said, 6 hours a day. Like some of my friends would be doing 12-hour study days at the library, and like I just knew for me personally I would burn out. Like it's just learning from how you work as a person. I know from GCSEs that I can't do that. I can do 6 to 8 hours a day of like actual work, you know, so maybe that's like 9-10 hours of being in a library, but like any more than that, and I genuinely could not carry it out long term. So don't compare yourself. Like try figure yourself out what works for you, what revision techniques work for you. This is just how I revise. I do think taking away some of the methods that I did will definitely help, but like, you know, you figure it out as you go along the way, and you figure out how you best learn things, how you best revise things, and keep your mental well-being well. Like, it sounds so obvious and so stupid, but don't just completely get rid of like your social and your sport just for A-levels, because it will make A-level season so unenjoyable and so like stressful, and more than it needs to be. My boyfriend was so relaxed during A-levels, like way more relaxed than me, and he got 3 A stars and an A, and a lot of his mindset was like, yes, he put in the work, but he's still gonna play tennis, like he's still gonna go out for dinner with his family. Like, you can so definitely like have a balance during A-levels, and I promise you, you will all be fine. If you are watching this video, like, you are already preparing for your A-levels, you know, you're already taking advice. I can assure that if you're watching this, you're probably already somewhat organised and prepared. I genuinely wish everyone the best of luck who was taking A-levels. I wish everyone who was doing maths the best of luck, that the grade boundaries come down, because bit too high for me personally. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope it was helpful, because I've had so many requests, so hopefully you guys take something away from this, and I will see you all next time. Leave below any questions you have in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you all as quickly as possible.